I'm cutting this black cherry as part of a timber stand improvement. Part of the top is died back and dropped to the ground. You can see where it's broken off here shortly. Right there, half of it's broken off and is laying on the ground. Here I'm sizing up where I want to drop this tree, so it does not do any damage to other trees or to itself. I'm clearing the brush away from the bottom of the tree to give myself a clear work zone and an escape path when the tree starts to fall. So I'm going to end up speeding this up a little bit so it doesn't get too boring. The butt log is a prime log. I don't want to waste any of it. It has the highest grade and the most yield of any of the trees, so I cut it just as low as I can. The rakers are a little low on this chain. It's been recently sharpened, and so that it's hungry and it will catch if you put any kind of pressure on it. It's just a matter of getting used to the fresh sharpening and letting it just work itself without putting pressure down. The saw is a Husqvarna 371 with a 24-inch bar on it. You can see it's not making it all the way through this tree. So, pretty good sized tree. I'm doing a plunge cut to get maximum control of when this tree will fall. And the hungry chain is fighting me a little bit here with the plunge cut, particularly because I can't get all the way through, and so the tip is trying to kick back on me a little bit. Usually if the chain is not too hungry, it won't jerk around that much, but because it's in the tree, there is no danger of it kicking back on me. I would have to cut all the way through that hinge in order to do that. I keep checking the direction of the fall and the thickness of the hinge. I'm cutting towards the back of the tree now so that I can actually get the bar to poke through the other side, so I can come in from the other side and use that same cut line to open up all of the wood on the other side to the hinge, but I will leave some holding wood so that I can control exactly when this falls. Although not necessary with this tree, I add a couple of wedges so that it cannot pinch my saw blade. This tree is leaning enough that that's not going to happen, but it's just a general practice that I do. And you'll see in a minute when I release the tree that she just falls right over when I tell it to. By doing the plunge cut, this gives me all kinds of time to check things out, make sure it's going to go where I want it to go, look things over before I finally release it. With my release cut, I also come down at an angle. This is just another precaution so that the saw can't get pinched and I don't end up having to struggle to get it free. You'll see that coming down, it just opens it up and I can just walk away. This is 32 foot to the crotch, and it's all prime. There's no branching or anything up to that point. So now I'm trying to figure out what is the best yield for bucking this up, and I end up deciding on 3 10-footers. I had originally thought I would do an 8 at the butt, and then a 12 and a 10, but I decided that the 3 10-footers would give me the best logs and quality. When I buck this up, I will leave 2 of these logs together and finish the cutting at the log landing. I don't like to drag anything more than 20 to 25 foot out. There's can be too much damage to the log and other trees and that type of thing, depending on how tight it gets. So usually I try to drag them out, 17 foot, give me 2 8.5s or 20 foot, well, 21 foot. I always cut about 4 to 6 inches longer than what I'm planning on milling, or my final product once I get done milling. When bucking in the woods, I try to start at the top and work back. Of course, that is a flexible thing. It really just depends on how the log lays, what's around, that type of thing. But in general, I will start at the top and work towards the butt. If I'm selling the logs that I'm cutting, I will cut below the crotch. That is the way commercial mills want them. If I am cutting for myself, I will actually cut it above the crotch a little bit, and that leaves me some options when I am cutting. I also do bowl turning and sell bowl blanks, that type of thing. And the crotch figure wood is desired for that type of work. So I try to leave myself an option to uh, utilize that, not leave it in the woods. When bucking a log that is close to the ground so that I can't get my bar in underneath it to cut from the bottom up, I will often put a wedge in the top, cut part way down, put a wedge in. That will keep the saw from getting pinched and allow me to cut all the way to the bottom and sever the log without getting the saw blade into the ground or getting it pinched. Not necessary in this case, as you'll see, but it often comes in handy. I wanted to show a little bit of the winching and skidding process. I want to, cover everything from when I cut the tree down to bucking it up in the woods to hauling it down into my log landing near the sawmill. I plan to make another video dealing with the winching, skidding, hauling in detail. This is the 10-foot butt section of that tree. It weighs about 1,100 pounds. The tractor is an Oliver 1365, about 70s vintage, something on that order. The winch is a Farmy 501 winch. Pulls about 12,000 pounds. I winched this in a couple of different phases. I could not get a straight pull from where I want to end up traveling to the main trail. I could have done this with a snatch block, but since I could easily get the tractor in a position to be able to pull it, to where I could get around some other trees and that type of thing, I chose to do that. It tends to be a little bit quicker and not quite as much hassle setting up a snatch block and running that and then taking it back down, and that takes some time. So this worked out pretty well. The job box on the front adds extra counterweight. There's already about 200 pounds of counterweight on the front already, but that box gives me some extra, and it holds things like straps to go around a tree if I'm going to use a snatch block, extra chain, cable, the chainsaws, fuel, oil, pretty much everything I need on site when I'm going to fell trees and haul them out. This cherry log that's straight ahead of us that I will end up driving next to is the log that I left whole. Yeah, I will end up cutting that up, but that is the second log above the butt log from this tree. If I can, I try to keep the one end of the log up as high as I can and keep it out of the mud, so only one end is dragging and I only have to worry about a little bit of mud when I'm actually sawing it. If I'm selling these to commercial sites, which I'm not in this case, but if I am selling them, that doesn't make as much difference because they're going to run them through a debarker. And they don't really care about mud in the bark.